You'll know more about it than I will. What I want to do is to take you back to my home city, Chicago, in 1995. And Chicago, some of you might know, is a city that gets very hot in the summer. It gets very humid. Often it's not really comfortable, in summer months. It's very cold in the winter, but can be dangerously hot in the summer. And in July of 1995, the temperature reached about 41 or 42 degrees Celsius in Chicago. And one of the features of a more urban world is we have these urban heat islands. So cities attract the heat with all of the concrete and steel and asphalt. And then the pollution that settles over cities from all the things that we burn there and all the driving we do tends to trap the heat. So that's a simple story of why we have urban heat islands. And one of the things about the heat island that's so important for policymakers to know is that it's not just that cities get hotter during the day. It's also that cities tend to trap the heat at night. And so you don't get this evening cooling, which provides a kind of ecological relief. And so in Chicago, not only was it 41, 42 degrees during the day, but it stayed very high at night. And the consequence of this was that, the city started to bake. And it's been a while since I've been in Israel, and I don't know what the state of the electrical grid is right now. Chicago's not quite as old as Israel, but the electrical grid is really old and in bad shape. And what happens when it gets hot is that everybody turns on their air conditioning, and so many people turn on their air conditioning in very intense heat waves that the power grid breaks down quite routinely and predictably. And so in Chicago, they didn't really have a plan for thinking about how to prevent this from happening. When they noticed that everyone was turning on air conditioning, they sent crews out to spray down the substations that provide electricity. You'll never guess what did not work very well. This measure did not work, and so hundreds of thousands of homes in Chicago lost power for several days. And as you probably know, if you live in a high-rise tower that depends on elevators, the elevators don't work when there's no power. And if you need to get water pumped up to the high level of a high-rise, you can't do that without electricity either. And so all these people effectively got trapped in their homes. And I apologize for the images are going to get better, but these are images that I basically stole from a television show in 1995 with like a, I don't know, 1998 phone. So forgive me for the bad photos, but they'll get better. So the other thing that happened in Chicago is that there are a lot of neighborhoods that are very poor and predominantly Black, where they don't have air conditioning in general. And the survival strategy in a heat wave has always been that you open up the fire hydrants and you kind of turn the parks into oases for water. One of the things I always say is that heat waves themselves, they kill more Americans in a typical year than all of the other, so-called natural disasters combined, but they're not very photogenic as disasters. If you close your eyes and you picture a flood, you can do that pretty easily, and you can picture a hurricane in your mind. But if you close your eyes and think of a heat wave, not much comes up. And if you ask an American to picture a heat wave, what they generally see, are poor people playing on the streets in water fountains like this. And that is a survival strategy that can do some good. But during this heat wave, so many people in the city opened hydrants at the same time that the city literally ran out of water pressure in some neighborhoods. And so now we have a situation where it's 41, 42 degrees. It feels considerably hotter because of the humidity. And there's no there's no power, and there's no water. So this starts to get very dangerous. The other thing that happens, of course, is that, without power, the traffic lights fail. And it's so hot that the plates start to expand on the bridges. Train rails start to melt and bend just enough that they either have to run the trains very slowly or they can't run them at all. And so you have a kind of gridlock situation. And then worse, there are about 45 hospitals in the city of Chicago with emergency rooms. And now so many thousands of people, in excess of the norm every day, start to get sick with heat-related illnesses that they overwhelm the hospital system. And in Chicago, at the time, there was no system for monitoring which emergency rooms were open and which were full. We had this situation recur at American hospitals during the pandemic, where there were so many people going to the emergency room, so many people who needed urgent care, that the hospitals couldn't care for everyone. They were overwhelmed. They started to shut their doors. And now imagine you have ambulances driving around the city, going from hospital to hospital, driving for miles through gridlock when there's no power and no water, and they can't find a place for people to go get treated. And the thing about a heat-related illness is that the sooner you treat it, the more likely you are to prevent catastrophic damage, right? Because if